What's going on, Llama listeners? Today's podcast is episode 9, and we have a great discussion with AJ Kehl, an author and fellow podcaster. We talk about everything from innovation, life balance, and highlight some of the leadership lessons that were a catalyst to his success. Enjoy.
Life, learning, leadership, the Llama Lounge.
Hey, what's going on, Llama Lounge? Welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to have a special guest, AJ Kehl. But before we do that, let's see what's going on with the rest of the Llama team. Scotty, what's going on? Joe, how you doing?
Good, sir. How's it going, Frank?
It's going good. How you doing? It's going good. It's same old for me. 8 a.m. in Korea, and I got my coffee in hand, but I'm ready to go. What's going on your end of the world?
It's 6 p.m. Central Time, Corpus Christi, Texas. Just had a water balloon fight with the kids. It's a beautiful 80 degrees outside.
Nice.
And I'm staring at the sunlight as we record this.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time where your weather's better than mine because I'm in NorCal right now and it looks kind of gloomy outside, a little windy. As the allergy season is kicking hardcore in NorCal right now, so a lot of people not sure if they got the COVID or allergies right now, so it's making things interesting around here.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, man, blessed life. Get to hang out with you guys.
Are you guys over the COVID stuff yet?
I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Done.
I think most of the people in this area are done with it. I see a lot more cars out there now. People are just done.
Yeah,
I
think so.
The beaches are packed again. They reopened Texas and the beaches are packed.
Yeah. I mean, are they enforcing social distancing out there? Are they arresting people for sunbathing and all that? Or
No, I don't think they'll ever touch the beaches. Restaurants have like a limit. So if they can hold a certain amount, they're only allowed to have like 25% occupancy.
Okay. And someone's out there measuring that.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's not forget our guest today. We got AJ Kehl, goes by AJ. He's a senior master sergeant in the United States Air Force. He's currently assigned at the 99th Civil Engineering Squadron at Nellis Air Force Base, Vegas, right? He is currently the deputy fire chief over there, and he's the author of a book titled My Rich Uncle, An Informal Guide to Maximizing Your Enlistment, as well as a fellow podcaster with a podcast called Real Talk with AJ. Hey, AJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody. It's awesome to be on the Llama Lounge. How cool is that?
That's right.
Yeah. Welcome.
You're getting there, man. You're getting there.
Yeah.
Big things.
So first and foremost, I'm really curious. How's Vegas right now? Is it the Strip empty?
I'm going to be honest with you. It is a ghost town down on the Strip. We right now we got Comac, so Commander ACC. He's got us kind of in this, go to work, go home, go to the grocery store and gas station, and that's it type of deal. So we don't really get a chance. But I was down on the Strip about a month ago, and it was a total ghost town. It's wild, man. I don't know how they're going to survive it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, do they talk about what's going to happen to the industry down there and the casinos? I mean, can they sustain that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know the mayor is. She was on CNN the other day, and she's super all about
awesome.
getting it open. Yeah, it was.
She's like, we're opening.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, wasn't it, with Anderson Cooper?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Who knows, man? I don't really know. I know that they're supposed to be opening up here soon, and then they're going to do some social distancing rules inside the casino. But there's a lot of retirees, I think, that are ready to get back gambling.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I obviously want to talk about your book and your podcast. But before we do that, can you just kind of let us know who you are? Let us know your background and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, thank you. I when I speak, I always kind of start with that too, and remind people that, just like, Chief Master Sergeant Wright, right? He's a dental technician, and that always reminds me that no matter where we come from and no matter what we do, that we can be anybody in our Air Force, and myself included. I'm from a I'm from a trailer park in California, and we upgraded to the apartments, and I didn't know what was going on with my life. I don't even know why I joined. If I'm being honest, I just knew it was a way out. I knew they had free education, and that was pretty cool. So I joined in 2003. I think based off of education, I wanted to stay home, so I put everything on my very first dream sheet, like West Coast, right? All California. I'm from SoCal.
Oh, yeah.
And and of course they give me Germany, right? So I'm immediately pissed off at the Air Force. But it worked out, and that was a blessing in disguise. And so I've been in now since '03, and I've done most of my tours have all been overseas. I've done Germany twice, Okinawa, Japan, and Vegas. This is my second tour in Vegas. So it was interesting to come back to Nellis, where I was a senior airman and now as a senior master sergeant. So it's quite the contrast. And so that's really my story. Nothing real special. I'm a fire dog by trade. I did a stint in innovation and transformation over in Spangdahlem, where I worked a lot of the, ASO 21, now known as CPI type stuff. And that was a real catalyst for me, and just met incredible people along the way. Been traveling, and here I am in Nellis, and now I'm on my way to Korea. So I'm going to see you soon, hopefully. I know you're up in Osan.
Yeah, that's not too far.
Yeah.
So fire dog, huh? I mean, like, man, that's a pretty awesome job. That's the job I wanted when I joined the Air Force. But they're like, yeah, you got to wait for about a year before that job opens up. I'm like, nah, I'm ready to go now. So port dog is what I ended up being. So yeah, that's cool. Where at in Germany were you?
Yeah, so I started in Ramstein. I started my first tour in Ramstein, which was super cool. And then I went Ramstein, Nellis, Okinawa, and then back to Germany, but went to Spangdahlem on the second tour. So I worked for Colonel McFall up there. He's now General McFall. And then ended up back here at Nellis. And, it was totally by chance. I actually had orders as a master sergeant to Korea with a follow-on back to my lovely island of Okinawa. And my assignment limitation code jacked me up, and my C2 code prevented me from going to Korea the first time. And that's how I ended up at Nellis. So yeah, I'm totally happy to get back to Korea. They approved it this time. It's the same C2 code. I don't know. It's crazy,
man. That's so weird too. Cause I remember I was in Korea, and I think it was probably Frank's predecessor, or maybe two people before you, Frank, that was in that position. And it was Perry. He was in a position over there in AMS, and he was approved to go to Korea, right? He had to follow on to Ramstein. So he spent like 11 months in Korea. He's doing his out processing to go to Ramstein, and they're like, "Oh, you're not medically cleared to go to Germany." Man, you don't want to see someone lose their mind. Like, he was like, "Wait, I was cleared to come to Korea, but I'm not cleared to go to Germany, where they have a giant hospital in the area."
Right? I know, right?
Yeah, some interesting things. When go ahead.
Gotcha. Oh, go ahead.
When you were in Spangdahlem, did you ever work in the fire department there, or were you always up in the innovation area?
Yeah, I started out in fire, and I started in the fire department for a little bit, and then what happened was the group commander at the time, Colonel Hernandez, he stopped me in the coffee shop, and he's like, "Hey, AJ, I know you just went through Greenbelt," and Marty, who was the innovation guy down there at the time, Master Sergeant Rossau, he was like, "Hey, Marty says that you just were totally stoked about Greenbelt and learning CPI." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's freaking awesome. I've been saying this stuff forever,
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, Marty has an emergency back home with his wife. He needs to leave, and we need to fill the void quickly. Talk to your chief and see what he thinks." And I was a master select at the time. I think this was 2015. And that's how it happened. I went back to my chief, Chief Tim Randolph, who's running IMSC over down there now for the fire dogs. And he was like, "Go for it, man." And so, I did innovation for about 2 years, and then went back to fire for one more year before I PCS'd.
So would you say, that's all. Would you say that innovations really got you fired up with all the different things you're working on now?
I
wasn't even trying to do that. I wasn't even trying to do that, right?
Yeah. You're firing all cylinders right now.
Yeah. We both know, look, at the end of the day, innovation is pretty, I think it's a little it's liberally used, right? Like innovation,
right.
this, innovation, that. But really, it's about just improving the stuff within your work center. It's about process improvement, not necessarily innovation. Innovation is kind of a separate thing, but we just make that stick on everybody's EPR and whatnot.
Sounds
But
cool.
yeah, it sounds super
Yeah.
cool, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
innovation, the ITO office is definitely the catalyst for me. You know, I was doing well up until then, but it wasn't until I got to get that exposure that I realized so many opportunities that existed in the Air Force. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
when I was
it's
when I was at Tinker, that was really the first time I got exposed to what innovation is and how they use that at Tinker. Because basically they got like an aircraft depot center, and basically they got to strip an aircraft down to bare bones and then rebuild it, right? And so, man, they had to use innovation because that stuff costs money. So a airplane can't sit in a certain phase for too long, otherwise things aren't moving, money's not being made. And so they really get to have industrial engineers that come in there and they measure every piece to tell you whether or not it's on time, it's making money. So that's a really good experience where I saw them use
Nice.
innovation. Yeah, yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I regret not jumping in on that. I had a command chief when I was at Scott, and he was like, back when it was AFSO 21, he was like, "You got to get in on this. You got to get in on this." And I was like, I kept pushing off, and now all I hear about is people having successful careers, you know, getting the green belts and black belts and moving on and doing great things. So that's, if I have one regret, that's not jumping in on that when I had the opportunity to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
that's
I think the Air Force and maybe the military as a whole, we didn't buy off on it because we're not necessarily a money making organization,
Right.
right? And there's no
Yeah.
there's no needle for us to move necessarily. So when we have airmen sitting around not doing anything, that doesn't mean anything necessarily, right? They're just waiting for that mission to happen so they can execute it. In an organization, you have people sitting around. That's a different story. Now, what are we paying these people for, right?
Right.
And so we
Right.
don't necessarily. I think we're catching up, especially now we're getting with industry partners like Delta and Amazon and stuff like that. And you have that organization I was talking about, Tesseract Air Force. They're definitely buying off on innovation right now.
Yeah, I think yeah, and it's definitely because it's a paradigm shift now where it's more we're looking at how do you save money, how do you save the resources and still do a lot of the same things. But just like what you were talking about, AJ, you know, innovation, the word. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Chief Ian Eishen, and he was just like, innovation is a word, but we just call it problem solving.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you think about it like that, you're like, yeah. And typically the most, you know, the biggest innovations occur when there's a bigger problem. And when there's little problems, you know, you can still be innovative and create ideas. And I think that was a cool paradigm shift for me when he just changed that, you know, just to change the term used for it. Cause now you look at it, you're like, okay, there's a lot of problems around always, right? That we can solve, big problems, small problems. And we get to that point where we can just test out solutions. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And to your point, when you said you went to that was the first time, like, you know, it was like life changing for you in a way. You know, you go to do that, you get to do something outside. And what Scott said is like he wasn't, you know, necessarily interested in it. How many times do you hear that story, and how many times have you lived that story where you're like, I just didn't want to take that opportunity, or I did, and I didn't think it was going to be a sexy thing to do, but I did, and now I'm like, that was awesome. I'm so happy I took that shot. You know.
Well, and I can tell you as a civilian now, retiree, I work with a lot of companies that want LSS. They want Lean Six Sigma. And so we end up contracting out instructors to deliver that training, where if I had just taken, you know, my command chief up on that opportunity to get some training under, you know, and really get involved in that, I could be probably saving my company a lot of money right now, other than contracting somebody else to come do the training.
And
Yeah.
AJ, you're a black belt in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I had the honor of going down to Maxwell to get my black belt over at the Eaker Center down there and working with the master black belts here in the Air Force. And again, this was kind of before it's really taken off. So I was really fortunate to be kind of at the tip of the spear, to say, right, as far as the whole innovation push went. And it's been a SecAF priority ever since, right? So to be one of the first black belts has been good. And to your point, Scott, I was actually just on a call the other day where I got a call where they offered to teach like uh, a basics to green belt online via Zoom class, and that's only because of my experiences and stuff like that you're afforded those types of opportunities. So the Air Force and CPI has been pretty good to me. I can't lie.
That's awesome. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, how rare is it for fire to be able to go and do a stint like that in innovation?
Yeah, it's really rare. I don't. I do know a few folks that I know that they have their green belt, especially some of my close circle, right? So when they saw me going and taking over that job, some of my close friends, of course, hit me up, and I did everything I could to assist them in acquiring their green belt and pursuing it. So there are fire dogs out there that have their green belt, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any. I'm sure there are that have their black belt, but that's kind of hard for the Air Force to pay for it. You not only need to have your green belt, but you kind of need to be in a position where you're running events for them to send you down to Maxwell. So I don't know. I do know it's rare, and I'm humbled to be kind of the guy in my AFSC when it comes to CPI. So just trying to spread the word and help others.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you do a lot. I mean, so you're a fire dog right now. You're a master at innovation and process improvements. You also wrote a book.
Yeah.
Which took you 3 years. So explain. No, I'm joking. Like what? So obviously writing a book's probably a big thing to tackle. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for the plug. It's awesome. It's funny too, because the book so I go into military clothing long time ago. I guess this was 2016 or 15. And I go into military clothing, and I'm just trying to grow just like everybody else. I'm sure you guys are avid readers, and I love to read. So I go and I grab this book called The Airman's Guide. You may have seen it. It's blue. You know what I'm talking about. And so I opened it up, I'm going to check this out. This might help me as an airman, right? But I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't written how anyone speaks, right? It wasn't like, it was super, no dig on PA, right? But it was very like textbook PA article, very,
Right.
I just thought, you know what, man, I don't know if this is going to resonate because I don't know if it's being real enough. While like balancing, the professionalism with keeping it real. And so I was like, man, I'll write a book. And so I downloaded this app for $50 called Scrivener. I looked up Scrivener. I guess a bunch of authors use this, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna use Scrivener. And
we're taking notes on this, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
We got a project in the books, so yeah, we're taking notes.
Awesome. There you go. I hope so. Since then, a lot of people have hit me up and totally amped up about writing. So it's so cool to see other people like either self-publish or get published. And for my book, I only wrote it when I was like on leave or, some sort of vacation, you know what I mean? And then something would come to me about like, hey man, we're not using our time effectively. So I just write on that. And I would write, 4, 6, 8 paragraphs. And over the course of 3 years, it all kind of came together on Scrivener. And Scrivener is pretty cool because you can kind of click a button and it like brings everything together, right?
Nice.
And it brought it all together. And I was like, oh damn, this is a manuscript almost, right? So I'm all stoked. And I hit up this company and I'm like, okay, I want like Uncle Sam, and he's on the front and he's got like gold chains and he's like, it's like my rich Uncle Sam is doing a lot for me. I didn't even know what I was doing. So keep in mind, I'm a master select, so I don't know how the hell to make senior chief, right? But I put on the front cover here, I got the chief. I guess I don't even know what I was doing. So then I self-published. And we did really good. We sold a bunch of copies, and every copy I sold, I was given an airman a free copy, and it was totally cool. It was just for the fun of value, right? I mean, to this day, I haven't made any money on it or anything. It's just about the value, what I wish I knew when I was a senior airman. So we're going about our business, and then I'm like, okay, my dream is to get it in AAFES. Like, I got to get it in AAFES, right? I got to get it in there to replace the Airman's Guide. No offense to Master Sergeant Boone, who wrote that one. But so then I went on Google and I hit up, this was about 2 years into the project. It's already been self-published. We're already selling a bunch of copies. and I hit up a few different publishers, one of which was Savis Beatty. And what they do is they do a lot of like military history, but they also have a little segment in military reference. So I hit them up, I give them my manuscript, and they call me back in about a week, and they're like, yeah, we're interested. And the rest, I guess, is history. So now I'm officially published, and that's helped
Nice.
a lot. Yeah, that's got me in Barnes and Noble, different book tours. It allowed me to be a AFES vendor and stuff like that. So yeah,
Mm.
here I am.
That's very cool. Very cool.
That's
Yeah.
dope, man. That is awesome. And the reason why you did it too, the value that you just wanted to give to people not making any money. I mean, we know a lot about not making any money. We've been having this Llama Lounge thing going on for about and we haven't, tried to make any money off of it. We just wanted to do it. And for a lot of the same reasons, right, Scott? Like we first talked about it. I think I was on a treadmill in Spangdahlem, and we've always been doing stuff all the time. And I was thinking, why don't we make a blog site that's like by leaders, for leaders, articles that are just like, we put stuff, we real talk, op-eds, and we call all our super friends, and they just write some articles about topics, whatever it might be, and we just put it out there into the ether and see what happens. And we just kept doing it, and it's just been great. And now we're doing the podcast, and we get to talk to AJ Kehl today. I mean, this is it's quite a journey.
So AJ, in that process of writing, did you have did you ever feel like a time crunch or anything like man, I just got to get this done, or did you just go with the flow?
Yeah, good question. I guess towards the end, what was weird about it is you would get like where I'd write a bunch, and then I would get a total writer's block. And I'm like, what am I supposed to write about? And then I would write a bunch, and then I would stop again. So I think towards the end, I started getting antsy, and I'm like, hey man, I need to get this thing out there. In that book, Lynchpin by Seth Godin, he talks about he talks a lot about lizard brain and all this stuff, but his main point is if you're trying to do something, you got to ship it. Right? Like you got to make it happen. You got to ship it. You can't just do 90%. Like you got to get it out there, even if it might suck, but you got to get it out there. That's the whole point. And so towards the end, I felt the time crunch because I knew I had to ship it.
Did you have challenges deciding whether or not you were like, is it done? Or because obviously you could probably just keep going on and on and on about new ideas. Did you ever run into those challenges?
Yeah. You never really know, right? Like you're like, okay, well, no, let me add this. I will say legal helped me out because they took out like 10,000 words that they said were not, were not appropriate for the active duty member. But
so that's good to know, folks. Take a note of that. All right. If you're writing a book and if you are active duty military.
Yeah. Scott, this is a good time for the disclaimer. The one that
That's right. Oh yeah. By the way, we have 3 current active duty military members on the podcast today. So I can say what I want. The 3 of them,
Yeah.
He's so good at
story.
that.
So AJ, have you always had a passion to write?
No, I think I failed English. Like in my undergrad, I tell you, I was brutal in English. I think I probably got a B- or something. No, I don't even consider myself a writer, but I read the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And that not only got me through my grad work, but it got me through the book too, because it was kind of like, hey man, maybe you are a writer, right? Maybe you are, and maybe you aren't. I don't know, but just go for it. And so I just started putting words on paper. I don't consider myself a writer at all. I really believe that all I did was say the things that either people should know when they're younger in their careers, or say the things that maybe people don't have the courage to say because they're controversial in some ways. Like when I talk about, you should only check your email twice a day. I mean, I know that's hard to tell like an airman, hey dude, check your email twice a day, but the amount of time it gives back for you to work on more impactful issues is incredible. Ever since I started that. And like, if you really needed to get a hold of me, you're going to call me anyway, And so I think there are things that people are thinking and we talk about in our water cooler huddles, but they don't say on the mass scale. So that's kind of my point for that.
That's awesome.
So like one of the topics I think in your book is you say meetings are a waste of time.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you got me at that because this COVID it really has proved that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how many meetings are we going to now? Not many. So can you just elaborate on why you think that is?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for asking. I I do think meetings, for the most part, are a waste of time. One of the things that I try to do now, and it kind of catches people off guard, like say they're doing a meeting, and I could already tell, you know how it is, right? You can already tell, you're like, oh, damn, this is a waste of an hour or two of my life. But so what I do is I intentionally, whoever was hosting it, I email them and I say, hey, sir, ma'am, what specifically do you need from the fire department? What specifically is my role in this, and what can I bring to the table? And if they're like, well, we just kind of, we just wanted fire there, in case we had, and I'm like, I'm busy, right? and I know that can come off very abrasive, and I try to temper that, but it's very important, right? Because our time's important. I think number one, if you don't have an agenda for your meeting, I think that's a foul. I think you need to have an agenda. I think that every meeting must have action items for everybody, because if there's no action item, then why was I there? And then also, not to restart or recap meetings when people walk in late. If they're late, they're late. That's their problem, and you just got to stay on pace and keep to the action. And that's what I think. But then again, it doesn't go over very well when people who outrank me are in the room.
Yeah, your boss is like, "What are you talking about? You'll be here." But from the perspective of like where I've been in the seats where I've been, I know I've been fortunate enough to work with commanders where we sit down and we're like, why are we having this meeting? You know what I mean? Like, and I've been on the leadership team where we slashed half the meetings like immediately because no one could explain to us, because let's say a commander and a chief get there right away, we get there together at the same time, and then we start like going over the policy letters. Why do we have that policy letter, right? And then we start looking at meetings like, why do we have that meeting when we have this meeting? I'm just a new guy, explain it to me, and when they can't explain it, we sit there and we're like, two jobs in a row, just slash meetings, because I can do a one-on-one with you, and it'll be more meaningful if I stop by your place of work than make you all come to the staff meeting to look at some slides that none of us want to look at right now. Right.
Yeah. Well, AJ, you got my attention when you use probably one of the most dangerous words is kinda. Hey, why do I need to be at this meeting? Well, we kind of need that. Like, you do or you don't. It's not kinda. No, kind of. I had a commander one time that pulled all the senior NCOs in, and I don't remember what happened. I just remember for about 45 minutes, he just kept telling us what we kind of need to do and what was kind of important. And I'm going, do we need to do it? Is it important? Don't tell me it's kind of, because either it is or isn't. So starting off with that word, kind of, it's not going anywhere good.
Well, unless it's in my rating chain, and then I don't care. I'll be there. I'll be there no matter what, right? If my commander needs me to just sit there and stare at the wall, I'm all in.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, we do have 3 active duty NCOs on the call.
I think that's challenging. You going back to innovation, though. You're like, you challenging things that people did before us. Like, I remember my supervisor went to a meeting. Like, that's what supervisors do, right? Yeah. That's what leaders are supposed to do. They're supposed to be in meetings all day. Yeah. And then now you're in a leadership capacity. You're like, do I really need to go to meetings? Is that where I need to be investing my time and energy?
Right. Yeah. Especially nowadays. Right. I mean, I've only been in 17. I know you gentlemen have been in about the same or longer or whatnot, but I remember it couldn't have been more than a decade ago. There's no way we had the amount of things coming at us. With every new requirement, I don't think they're taking much off the plate. So prioritization now more than ever is really important. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to take a meeting and it's going to take 2 hours of my day, you ever have those days like you just work all day, you're busy, it's meetings and emails, and you got the drip of sweat going down, and you get home, you're like, what the hell did I do all day? Did I even make an impact on anything?
Yeah. Well, and the worst part about that is, like you said it, you're rushing from meeting to meeting or email to email. When's the last time you talked to one of your troops? When's the last time you made a face-to-face with somebody who actually needs to see you? So great point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was at the fire station today. I had to catch up on a few of these last second EPR. Well, you know how it is. That's what we got to do, right? Well, the guys, they deserve it, right? I mean, especially when it comes to their appraisals and making sure that we're as diligent as possible. But it was also a great day where the shift was having a breakfast, and it was a good opportunity to just, like you said, just kind of hang out, because during the week it's a lot harder. So we would just, after I got done with that EPR stuff, I just went into the main day room area, and we're all just kind of hanging out and talking and eating breakfast. And I think those times matter more than anything else.
Yeah. Great point.
Well, yeah, you got to find those deliberate ways that you're going to do that, because otherwise you're going to get stuck behind your desk. One of the things because I'm the superintendent of the CE squadron at Travis, and I get to the fire chief over there. They offered me to have a locker, in the fire station, and I was like, I don't really need it because I can use the locker room at the gym, but it'll force me to go over there. I mean, it's a deliberate reason for me to go over there and check on the guys. And clearly with the COVID thing, it's been a little bit different. I got the locker room. I probably only used it once so far because of everything that happened, but it's something that I plan on continuously doing, going over there, taking a shower and seeing the guys, working out with them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you burned with them yet? Have you gone in the
I have, man. So I will tell you what, we did some live burns over here, and I'm not going to say I'm not afraid of a lot of things, but I would say that's a different feeling, man. They put me into gear, right? And then we go, right? And this is straight up live burns. They bring in people from all over, all the counties in the Bay Area, and we're burning down stuff. And they put the gear on me. We went in there, and I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. The side of my head was just hot. And I don't know why. It was like one little spot. And I'm like, am I covered here? Because this feels like it's a piercing heat in my temple. They're like, no, that's normal. Just get lower. And I get lower. I'm like laying on the ground, and it gives you a whole different perspective on what y'all have to deal with when you're crawling through and can't see anything and you're looking for somebody. That was just a wild experience. I mean, I was hats off to you guys on what you do. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, thanks. There's a lot of training, because you never even know if you're going to actually get in that position. But what's real scary is even our personal protective equipment, as good as it is, there are certain situations where if what we call a flashover happens inside of a structure fire, our masks, they melt at like 900 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So when flashover happens, that happens at about 1,000 degrees. So you can imagine if flashover happens and you're in the room, your
Right.
gear is not going to protect you. And that's what's real sad about it all is even in 2020, if things go real south, even what we're wearing is not going to protect our people from injury or death,
Right. Like even we were talking because they put the breather on me and everything, and like just like some people might go scuba diving and all that stuff, but I mean that's your life, right? I mean that's your life, and if you start losing it and panicking, and now you're just burning oxygen even faster, and you're deep in there. I mean there's not many more feelings of just feeling completely helpless and freaking out than not having oxygen in a room that's on fire. I mean I'm telling you what.
Yeah, true. That's so true. And I'm glad you appreciate that. And hopefully up at Travis, they have you, go and ride the engine and stuff, because you'd be surprised that the types of calls that we respond to are not, we don't respond to fires every day. We all know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just between, between the alarms and the various occupant issues, the various medical issues, it's pretty great.
Yeah, rolled ankles at the gym. I think rolled ankles at the fitness center is probably the most common.
You're getting good at putting those bandages on.
Yeah.
So being the fire chief, the fire dog guy is probably a pretty busy job. I mean, full-time active duty, you got a ton of troops underneath you, but you're also doing the book thing, doing the podcast thing, doing the coaching thing. How do you balance all that out? Or is all that stuff a break away from work, or how do you balance it out?
Yeah, good question. I don't do the best job in the world. I really do think it's a war of attrition. I think that the only reason I have a book that's published is because I stuck with it longer term. There's no way I could do that in a short period of time, and the podcast just launched. I'm actually working on another book right now. Have you guys read, do you guys read any Tim Ferriss?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss.
Yeah. Have you read A Tribe of Mentors?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, that's the first one I ever read of his. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Really? Okay, so he asked those same 11 questions, right? To very very popular people that are very successful. So a cadet, she's now a lieutenant in the Space Force. She just graduated on this one at USAFA.
Nice.
When I was down there speaking for the National Character and Leadership Symposium, we got together at dinner and just started bouncing ideas. And now we're writing a book called Surrounded by Greatness, Air Force Tribe of Mentors.
Very cool.
And it's 11 very deliberate questions. Some of them kind of like what Tim Ferriss was asking, and some of them more military-esque. And we have already got multiple 4-star generals, You know, we've already been pinging people like CSAP, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, you know, General Raymond, for instance, right? So, and we're asking them questions like, hey, what silly habit do you just absolutely love? And how cool is that, right? And and we're hoping AU or the Center for Character and Leadership Development picks it up. And maybe it'll be something that a lot of our troops get to read and get to learn from the highest of leadership, you know? So that's what we're at.
That's cool. Are you gonna ask the billboard question or?
yeah, that is in there actually, I believe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, Tim Ferriss. I think most of us are pretty big fans of Tim Ferriss. He has some.
You got to have something in there about fasting, right? I mean,
about fasting, right? Yeah, he's totally keto, right?
That guy didn't eat. He's like, yeah, I went on a 5-day fast. I'm like, oh my god, there's no way.
I mean, the level of I mean, the level of just that dude. I'm telling you what, like the level of scrutiny he has on himself. They said that he has an entire garage full of what he was eating and how he was working out, like every month of the year or whatever for like his last however many years of life, so that he can look back and be like, hey, I thought I looked better and felt better in 1996. What was I eating back then? Right? I mean, like what?
Yeah. He's got some interesting habits, like his morning routine and the supplements he takes. But I know he's big on like ketosis and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. He experiments though. You know, like he knows his body. You know, that's interesting. AJ, one of the other books you had mentioned I want to go back to is The War of Art. Yeah. What are some nuggets that you pulled out of there? You know, I've talked to a few folks about The War of Art, and it's not a popular book. It's not a book that a lot of people have read, and I actually listened to it on the audio. And one of the things that really, really stuck with me is the part where it talks about persistence over resistance, and that from the time that you're born, you encounter resistance from the very beginning, right? Joe, Scott, I don't know if you guys read that book.
No, I haven't checked that one out yet.
It's a easy audio if you just want to throw it on the audio, but
it's not the dyslexic version of Sun Tzu's book, or no?
No, I think it's a book that every young person should read because it talks about the challenges that you're going to encounter. Right.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
AJ, I know you said you used it and kind of inspired you in the beginning.
It totally did. Yeah. It's the focus of chapter 4 in my book, which is all about maximizing your time. And two of my favorite quotes from Stephen Pressfield are, the first one is, most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. And between the two stands resistance. And the second one is that we feed resistance with power by our fear of it. Master the fear and we conquer resistance. And yeah, you're right. It's like, it's almost basically what Stephen Pressfield is saying, which, by the way, what's really crazy is I tagged him in an Instagram post and I saw that he liked it. Like he hit the like or something. And I'm like, oh crap, right? Like this guy's so me being the dummy I am, I'm like, well, damn, I got to message him now, right? So I messaged him I'm like, hey, I wrote a book and I totally wrote about you. You're a big inspiration. And he wrote me back and we had like a 10-minute conversation.
That's nice.
It was unbelievable.
Cool. And the point, didn't ask for royalties or anything, or
no, yeah, right. He's probably bored in quarantine, right? But yeah, it's all about the resistance. And like I was saying earlier, when I would get writer's block or whatever, really the point is every single one of us, whether we're in the Air Force or not, like we have some sort of art, we have something within us that we want to live, that we want to be about. But a lot of us are afraid, either because society doesn't think it's normal, or because maybe we think we're going to suck at it or something. But the point is to just do it. And if people react to it, that would be awesome. You just don't know unless you do it, and you got to get through that wall. And so what I do is I just try to be vulnerable, right? I just try to put myself out there. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of people that totally hate me, and that's okay. I'm going to remain magnanimous as possible. But at the same time, I also know that I'll put myself out there super vulnerable on something. And I'm like, and then I'll get people hit me up and be like, dude, I've been thinking the same thing, man. And you're like, oh crap, really? And so then we make a connection. So yeah, the Stephen Pressfield book, like you were just saying, Frank, I think everyone should read it. I really do, especially if you're trying to get to that next kind of level in your life, whether it's school or professional. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sound like some Goggin stuff.
yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, AJ. So it's one of those things where I'm a retiree, right? And from
I
the
could
military.
tell by the beard.
Yeah. This isn't a COVID beard. This is
Yeah.
I've had this for a little bit. But
And the
the thing is,
magnificent hair.
I knew what I did active duty was not what I wanted to do when I got out of the military.
Mm.
And so I had to start taking steps to, okay, what do I want to do when I actually get out of the military? I don't want to be back in that career field. And, for a lot of people, they feel like they're relegated to go back to what they know. Right.
Right.
I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to branch out and do this, but they kind of just get stuck in that mindset of like, well, this is the only training I have. This is what the military or the Air Force gave me. So this is what I'm going to try to do when I get out. And it sounds like, I think as much as you probably love firefighting, there's so much more that you can do, right? But you just got to give yourself that opportunity. And we talked about this before, Joe. Like one of the good things about this whole COVID thing, this quarantine thing has got people being super creative. Everyone's a podcaster now. Everyone's, a chef, a DJ, everyone's doing all kinds of stuff. And so it's one of those things where it's a great time. As much as I hate talking about COVID because I'm done with it, but it's a great time to start tapping into those things that like, this is what I always wanted to do. Well, now's a good time to just put it out there and see what happens. And if you're good at it, great. If you're not, oh, well, at least you took that step.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think willingness to let yourself be vulnerable comes with some maturity too. Because I think I don't know if it's societal or I know for my personal example, I think just being a first generation American, it was tough coming here, and then being Asian American, I had what they would consider a stereotypical mom was like, "Why are you bringing home a 97? Why is that not 100?" Right? And you're like, "What?" And then what happened was, I think, and unintentionally, then I didn't want to take AP classes because I didn't want to explain why I got a B now. Right. And then I get to get into the Air Force. And now I'm like, well, I don't want to try something new because I'm good at what I'm good at. Right. I'm afraid to put myself out there. And it took a while until I realized, let's go. Let's just try it. Right. Put yourself out there. That's how you grow. And that's what, but I think it took some maturity for me to kind of break some of those habits that were inadvertently given to me, as growing up. And I think a lot of people go now, we have the whole, the society of entitlement, and people are just kind of feel entitled to certain things. And then it's like, well, I'm also entitled not to fail. Right.
Yeah.
And we run into these things where people don't know how that feels anymore. And when you get older, finally you're just like, or at least more mature. Some people, you get older and you're not necessarily mature, but you get to that point and you're like, you know what? Why not? Why not me? What's the worst thing going to happen? I'll be the same person I am right now. Let's roll. Right. And that's a great points that I think you're bringing out that book. And I know that until I finally felt like I was willing to be vulnerable and try things, I didn't feel like I was really living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we see that a lot with our blog website, because we get a lot of people that are interested in writing things, and then we'll get people that are like, I want to, but they're not confident in the writing. They're not confident in their ability to kind of put their thoughts on paper. And I think we do a good job of, helping to edit it a little bit so people sound smart, but or at least not sound dumb. But I think it's a challenge for a lot of people to just, if it's something that they really want to do and they're really passionate about, they might be scared to do it for fail, for the fact they may fail or what other people are going to think about it.
Yeah. So one of the things that talks about, being vulnerable, I think being on a podcast, you're vulnerable, right? You're putting your thoughts out to whoever, right? We probably have 1 million listeners right now. Right?
Yeah.
AJ,
at least
how long?
one.
All right. 1,000,001.
Minus 999,000.
How's your podcast coming along, AJ? And kind of give us the premise of what that's about.
Yeah, I just started. If I'm being honest, I wanted to start a long time ago. But I guess I made excuses. I like to say I had other things going on, but really it's always an excuse, right? Time is a decision. It just started. Initially, I wanted it. So I was like, okay, it's going to be called Real Talk. And initially, if I'm being honest, this was a long time ago. Okay. The initial thought was, is that I would have anonymous people that are in the Air Force on my podcast. And like, let's say I had somebody anonymous that was like a flight chief in finance, and they were just keeping it real on really what's going on in finance, right? And so I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be perfect. They're going to love it." But if I'm being honest with you, I've seen some success now lately, and with the recognition, has put a little bit of a kind of a spotlight on, you know, making sure that I'm being, you know, as PC as I can, right, when it comes to the Air Force. And I didn't want to be contentious in any way, so I changed it to more like a real talk, like, hey, we're still going to keep it real, but I'm not going to make it anonymous where I'm going to let somebody just totally hammer a certain you know, like industry within the Air Force. And so I've just tried to have smart people on there. So far I've had my good friend James Scon, believe it or not, so this guy's a staff sergeant. He's an older staff sergeant. I think he's like 30 or so, but he was the ACC Airman of the Year, actually. But he's one of those guys where you ever meet those guys where like rank doesn't really matter. Like, let's be honest, if you had more stripes, he would have more stripes. It was just a matter of the fact that he's only been in for a few years. The guy's a total rock star. And so I had him on talking about the new technologies to which we can leverage here in the Air Force. I've had my good friend Raz on, who is the CEO and founder of Ace Management, who does the certified manager credential, which replaced the PMC. Nice. And then I've had another friend on there talking about finances and how in the military, even though we don't get paid maybe as much as we'd like, that we can still leverage those finances through, you know, investing in real estate and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just, you know, I don't know, I'm just trying to keep my inner circle of high quality people and just have them on and just talk just like you guys are doing, you know, and hopefully maybe something will come to the surface that someone out there will take a hold of, and maybe they'll see value in it. So yeah.
And I tell you what, those three folks that you mentioned, I imagine they're not at Nellis, right?
No.
So and that's what works for us. It's our way of connecting, staying connected. Me, Joe, Frank, and Jose, who's not on the call. But you know, we're all geographically separated, but it's a great way to, you know, build momentum, stay connected, feed off each other. You know, the old adage, iron sharpens iron. It's a good way to stay in that communication.
Yeah.
Frank, we can't hear you.
I don't know what happened to Frank's mic.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry. When you were saying real talk, I was thinking of Dave Chappelle, when keeping it real goes wrong.
Keeping it real goes wrong.
Oh man,
I was like, nobody playing on my phone.
I love that.
I was trying to figure out. I was like, are you gonna have a distorted voice for the person, or like, I was thinking of like how it was all gonna go. Like, is he just like black silhouette in the background?
Right.
Distorted voice.
So AJ, a lot of your endeavors, it sounds like a solo effort, right? Would you say that's fair to say? Like you're doing the podcast is on your own, your book writing.
The podcast is, but I think the other things I've teamed up on, I have a couple projects going on right now. One, I'm actually, I'll put it out there, even though hopefully nobody steals it from me, but we're working with manufacturers right now overseas to, we created a planner. I saw a problem with the younger Air Force. I would hold a big meeting in the organization and like half of the people would have something to write on. And I'm like, dude, you know, how are you going to take notes on the important things? And so we filled that gap we created what we call Elevate, an airman's planner, and it's built for airmen. And so within the calendar, it has SCODs and PECDs and has everything from, you know, counseling to initial feedbacks. It's basically made for airmen. So that's one thing. I've collaborated with a few folks, actually. With this new book, I'm collaborating with a few folks. The podcast is really the only thing I guess I'm doing kind of on my own, if I'm being honest with you, Scott. But yeah, you know, finding the bandwidth to do all these things is difficult because I only have so much time on a Saturday, Sunday, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, but I'm sure you can attest to this, is when you're doing something you're so interested and passionate about doing, it doesn't even, you're limited by the work. I mean, the time and maybe the bandwidth, like you're saying, but it's like, it doesn't feel like work, you know?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't.
Yeah.
I just want
we love coming on
here
here to talk.
Yeah, I just want somebody to like you guys with this podcast, which is super awesome. I looked at your Facebook page and listened to a few things, and it's just awesome because you're just adding value to others. And what I want is I want somebody to either read the book, listen to the podcast, or read a blog post or whatever, and then be like, dude, this is awesome. That's it. That's all I want. I don't want. I'm not trying to get rich or anything. I just want them to be like, dude, this is awesome. That's it. So yeah. I mean, I think it's worth it, if somebody gets value out of it.
So AJ, so like we had the Chiefs on yesterday, and one of the questions I asked them is like personal goals. Like, and I know you got a lot of things going on, so you got some transition upcoming with a move.
Yeah.
What are some personal goals that you're striving for, whether it be short term or long term?
Thanks for asking. I don't know, because right now I know that I need to do everything in my power to serve the folks at Kunsan Fire Department, right? And that's really all I can do. It's my first time as a fire chief. I'm in a position where I'm a senior master sergeant, and it's only one of, I think, 2 or 3 worldwide in my career field that senior master sergeants are the fire chief. So I know that I have like a big kind of a mission there, and I need to do well. So that's really the only thing I'm thinking of short term. Long term, if I'm eligible this year, right? So if the Air Force decides that they want to promote me, then I think if that happens this year, then my longer term goal will be, okay, well, how can I influence the most amount of people? And I think that you can do that outside of your functional career field by moving towards like superintendent, like you're doing, Chief, and work that way. Although I'm not the best at admin, I'm not even gonna lie. Like my EPR game is crippled. I mean, I'm pretty good, but not that good.
Hey, you got me if you ever need anything. We're good.
I appreciate that.
All you need is
Thank
super
you.
friends. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I just need a mentor right now.
There you go. So, hey, real quick. So Jose, even though he's not here, he wanted to start this thing called the Leadership Rapid Fire, where he asks like somebody a series of questions, and you just got to go off off the cuff of what you think. All right.
Oh, this will be good.
Right? Yeah. So sweet. So you ready for the first question?
Okay.
He's stretching.
I'm ready.
He's doing some. Yeah.
He's stretching.
All right. First question. What is your favorite leadership trait?
Oh my gosh. My favorite leadership trait. And we were just teaching this the other day too, so I have too many in my head circling around. My favorite leadership trait, I think it's got to be just trustworthiness. I think it's whether or not you trust me to be loyal to me, and because I'm always going to be loyal to you. I think that's my favorite, is when we have that connection.
Awesome. All right. Next question. What is your favorite quote?
Your network is your net worth.
Nice. Okay. All right. And number 1 book for an aspiring leader.
Oh, I read too much. Okay. Number 1 book. Oh my gosh.
My Rich Uncle. No.
No, not yet. For an aspiring leader, I would say you got to start with the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, only because, and I don't want to be cliche about it, but it really does matter. And one of those laws is the law of the rubber band, which is what we were just talking about earlier, about keeping that tension and going outside of your comfort zone. And getting outside of your comfort zone, like innovation or something else, is going to be the difference between average and superior, in my opinion, is keeping the tension.
Nice. All right. So we got the last one. How do you find your harmony between life, leadership, and learning?
Oh, that's a Llama Lounge quote right there. That's nice.
How do I find my harmony between life, leadership, and harmony? So I find my harmony, I think, I've gotten better at it. Unfortunately, I've been married and divorced, and I learned a lot from it, especially when it comes to the work-life balance. People always talk about work-life balance, but it is so critical, man. It's so critical. So I think the way I find my harmony is I make it a point to not arbitrarily put my work over my personal life, to connect with a circle of strong influence, because like Chief CZ says, if you want to hang out with eagles, don't hang around with turkeys, right? And so that was the leadership part. What was the last part? Life, leadership,
and learning.
Learning. Learning is easy for me because I wake up, first thing I do every morning is I read 20 minutes. Warren Buffett says if you can read 15, 20 minutes every day, you're going to get somewhere. I read 20 minutes a day, first thing when I wake up, and then also before I go to bed. The difference is I read leadership and self-help in the mornings, But before I go to bed, I always read about nutrition and dietetics and, like the aging process. I'm really into like, I'm really into like trying to live long and healthy.
Right. Are you a fan of Peter Attia? Like, you probably read his.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That dude's awesome.
Yeah.
That podcast, The Drive, is amazing too.
Yes, it is. I'm reading the longevity diet right now. And Dr. Rhonda Patrick is one of my favorites because she's
another genius.
and super genius, right? Like it's almost unreal.
Right.
But I got to figure all that out because I want to live a long, happy life,
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, man. That was awesome, AJ. Yeah, we just started that LRF now, so you survived it. You made it through, bro.
Awesome. That was rough. Thank you, though.
Hey AJ, on behalf of the Llama Lounge, we really appreciate your time. We really thank you for being on the podcast. As we begin to wrap up, I wanted to maybe offer the listeners what's the best way that they can get a hold of your book, whether that be audio or in the stores, as well as listen to your podcast.
Well, I thank you for the shameless plug. Yeah, my Rich Uncle can be found on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I do some when I do speaking engagements, I'll have some as well. But if you just type in My Rich Uncle on Amazon, you'll be able to find it. You'll be able to read the reviews and then make a decision for yourself. And as far as the podcast, it just came out. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's just Real Talk with AJ Kehl, and like you guys, we're just keeping it real. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Right on.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to the show. We'd love for you to connect with us at www.llama-leadership.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Llama Leadership and also on Instagram at Llama Leaders. And a big thanks to Mike Whitmer for the music. To check out more of his stuff, go to soundcloud.com/Mike-Whitmer. Thanks again. See you on the next episode.